On New Year's Day 1895, a strange discovery was made in the Almond Water in central Scotland, and the story behind what happened has never really been figured out. Benhar, near Harthill on the North Lanarkshire-West Lothian border, was a small village made up of miners' cottages. These rows of cottages, known as West Benhar or Muirhead Rows, were tied to the local colliery, with the miners paying a small rent to the owners to live there with their families. The houses were small, so overcrowding wasn't uncommon, and cheaply constructed, with the privy outside, and used by up to 70 people. If the miners left their employment at the colliery, the mine closed, or if they were dismissed for some reason, they also lost their home, as there was no security of tenure, which also meant the inhabitants didn't bother to improve the property. The Benhar Coal Company had operated the local mines and employed hundreds of men to work in the difficult conditions below ground. The coal field covered around 2,000 acres and was leased to the company for up to 30 years, with two main coal seams, these being number 1 and number 2. The coalmaster, George Simpson, had leased the mine in 1851 from the Duke of Hamilton, and over the years had many ups and downs in business. The company was made a limited one in January 1874. On 13th April 1892, it was incorporated into the Niddry and Benhar Coal Company Limited, and it was for this company that Donald McFarland worked in the West Benhar coalfield. McFarland had been born in 1836 and lived in the area all his life. He knew it well, having played there as a child, and often walked long distances to get to work. He was known to be a hard worker, a good family man with a wife and children, and was much respected by the local community. But on Sunday, 30th December 1894, the miner disappeared from his home at West Benhar Rows. This would have been a day when he wasn't working, as it was a Sabbath and a day of rest, but how he spent it is unknown. An anxious search got underway for McFarland. The colliery was searched, as was its outbuildings, other nearby pits, and local paths and terrain, but his friends, finding no trace of him, had to give up when darkness fell. In the early hours of New Year's Day, McFarland's brother-in-law, Robert Halbert, a 66-year-old miner from Benhar, fell asleep and had a dream. In that dream, he saw the missing man at a particular spot in the Almond Water. The 28-mile-long River Almond runs from Hurst Hill near Shotts, a few miles from West Benhar, right through to Cramond and into the Firth of Forth. The sight he saw in his dream was some miles away to the east of McFarland's home. Halbert was known locally for having the gift of second sight, and as the story spread, it caused a considerable amount of interest. Halbert mentioned his dream to his neighbours, and without a second thought, they made their way to the place he'd indicated. There, in the snow, they found footprints belonging to the missing man. Following the tracks, they eventually found him, standing upright in 3 feet of water, with solid frozen ice all round him. He was very obviously dead. Dr. Miller of Harthill, who examined him and found no signs of a struggle or indications of foul play, gave 58-year-old McFarland's cause of death as exposure. What's strange about this case is that no one had seen him leave his house, and even after his discovery, they questioned why he'd entered the water. Had he fallen in? Was he disorientated? As there were no baths at the mine, had he gone for a walk and decided to wash there? While some people in the village accepted Halbert had second sight, others weren't too sure. He'd known exactly where his brother-in-law was, and they found that suspicious. Had he had a hand in his death, they wondered. No charges were ever brought against Halbert, and no answers as to why McFarland ended up where he did were forthcoming. McFarland was buried a few days later. The Benhar site continued to be worked on and off until October 1962, when it was closed by the National Coal Board. Today, there are no working coal mines in Scotland. If you enjoyed this episode of Scotland's History, please like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for watching.